special meeting for Monday, April the 15th, 2024. I'll call the meeting to order and ask for the roll call, please.
Councilmember Abdelgawad.
Here.
Councilmember Baker.
Present.
Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Councilmember Circo.
Present.
Councilmember Ingert.
Present.
Councilmember Holman.
Present.
Councilmember Mills.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow.
Present. We have a quorum. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll move right into new business at this time. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3894 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3894 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city manager to enter into an agreement with South KC Acquisitions LLC and Kansas City Recycle and Waste Solutions LLC, terminating the threatened landfill and authorizing the mayor to declare this as an emergency.
Thank you, Erica. Do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Your Honor. So tonight I will be going through three elements of the agreement that is before you for your consideration. I would point out at the beginning of the presentation that currently from the day that the mayor and I learned about this proposed threat of a landfill on our northern border, today is exactly 630 days since we have been under this veil. So good to be on a possible path to a solution at this time.
Jim, excuse me, could you pull the microphone
Certainly,
closer
sir.
to you, sir?
I
I'm
hope.
sorry. It is, it's kind of hard.
I'll
to-
lean into it.
All right,
Because
thank
it's
you.
not pulling to me.
Well, as we've leaned into this issue all along, right?
So there are three elements to the agreement. One of the elements is local, one is Jefferson City, and then there are elements to the agreement itself that I want to outline to the council tonight. Okay. The first element is a payment. This agreement calls for the purchase by the city of 12 acres of land for the amount of $440,000. And in front of the council, you see that area, and for the public, we're highlighting it in that bright green strip there. Our hope with this purchase is it has long been a desire of this council, an expressed desire of this council, to use this area as a quality northern access point into the city of Raymore. This particular strip lends itself, as you walk down through the western component of American topsoil, it lines up directly with North Madison and would provide a very, very nice northern boulevard and economic development zone into the city of Raymore. So we consider this a quality purchase by the city council if you approve this agreement. The second payment is a payment directly to the Monheisers of $3,290,000. For that payment, Raymore will be allowing Raymore to place restrictive covenants that go with the property, not with the ownership, on the land that the Monheisers currently will retain, which you see on the map in blue. As far as those restrictive covenants are concerned, they are limited use on that property of residential, commercial mixed use, and agricultural. The property is currently zoned R80. As far as the residential component of this is concerned, the restrictions would limit the residential to R80, R2.5, R5, R6, R7.5, and R10 within the Kansas City Planning and Zoning codes. You may remember when I was discussing this with the council in executive session a couple of weeks ago, we fully expected them to come back asking for R1.5, which would allow for apartments, multi-use uses within the commercial district. They did not do that. The codes go backwards from the 1.5. They will not allow within those codes multiplex or multi-unit buildings on those existing blue properties. The agricultural use is AGR within the Kansas City Code, with the exception of, within the agreement, no mining and no quarrying on that property if it remains or if it was rezoned to AGR. The commercial is limited to B3, B2, B1, or 0, with the exception of no adult businesses, no payday loans, and no pawn shops within there. That would be within the agreement. That is all restrictions on the use of the property that would be the restricted covenants that we sign with the developer for those blue properties. There are other elements to it. As I described to the legislators down in Jefferson City, what we wanted was a belt and suspenders solution to this problem. So for the properties that they own, there is these restrictions being put on it that go with the land, again, not the ownership. Coming from the other direction is the Jefferson City component of this agreement. So it calls for an amendment to the statute, and the agreement says that the parties will work together now to try to get the amendment to 26205 subsection 9. This, all along, up to this point, the amendment to that has been the 1 mile that everybody talks about. We currently have and have exercised the half mile, but we would be taking that to a mile within this. During the course of discussions, negotiations in the Capitol last week, 2 weeks ago, we added to that the suspenders portion of this, which calls for the ability of the council to veto a solid waste processing area, disposal area, which was the original wording in the statute. This adds to that a solid waste processing facility, and then specifically calls out demolition landfills or sanitary landfills within that mile. So our concern has also not only been with the properties acquired and the property we're going to purchase, but if you look to the east on the map, and we've highlighted in bright green around these areas what we have always called the Duselier properties. We do know that the developer has had and continues to have contingency contracts on those properties. While we cannot, because they don't own them right now, we can't put the same restrictive covenants on those properties for a future deal that might go in or might not go in. What we can do is, with the change in the statute, we can eliminate those. Right now, if we get the mile, without the additional wording, they cannot have a demolition landfill there, and they cannot have a solid waste landfill. They could have a transfer station. And if you have seen their transfer station up north, we don't want that transfer station in this particular area. I'll just phrase it that way. So the new statute, which the legislators have agreed to, adding this additional wording, if the council approves this agreement tonight, the wording that would be out on the floor for debate would include the solid waste processing facility, which would eliminate items like a transfer station, would eliminate items like recycling tires, batteries, et cetera, on that particular site, as long as the council vetoed any proposed use of that site for one of those reasons, because we would now have the mile in place as well. There was also change to the statute, one that we put in to satisfy our special attorney on this particular one. There was some vague wording about adjoining municipality, so we're doubling up on that word, making sure that they understand that the adjoining municipality would be the city of Raymore, and that we would have veto power over that. That would be the amendment to the statute. The other item that is in place with this that the developer has agreed to within the agreement is if the statute is not amended for any reason at the state, this entire agreement is null and void. So any of our obligations under it, any of the developer's obligations under it go away. If the statute is approved, what we have tied this to is the statute itself, not to the governor's signature, because we do not know what vehicle, specifically what bill would be used, how that bill might be amended in the future. So we wanted to keep it to the wording amendments within 26205 sub 9. If those go into place, the agreement is in place. If they don't go into place, null and void. Understood on that particular point? And the reason we get even vaguer on that particular point is there are a number of ways that this statute could go into place. It could go in place with the governor's signature. It could go in place if the governor does nothing and 15 days go by, it becomes active. It could go into place if the governor vetoes it, but the veto is overridden. Any one of those, and we have a solid agreement here. So we didn't want to tie it down too tight. The third element of this is the agreement itself. Certain items within the agreement for the city's protection as well. We do have a mutuality of releases section within here. Neither side will sue each other relative to the elements of this agreement at a later date. Everyone is held harmless within it. There's also a severability clause. The council is very well aware of these. Changes a little bit with this one. If any element of this agreement or the change in the statute is found to be unconstitutional or illegal, then at a later date, basically we give the land back and they give the money back. Any questions on either of those within the agreement? Any questions on the agreement itself?
Mr. Barber. Thank you, Your Honor. I had, Mr. Fairborn, one question on the restrictive covenants. How are those, is that attached to the deed, or how is that attached to the property?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Councilman. Really what you're going to have with that is going to be a public record that will be made of the restrictive covenants. It'll be a recorded document. Those will be enforceable by the city for purposes of any future injunctive action. So if there's something that is attempted to be constructed or operated on the property that would violate the restrictive covenants, the city would have the ability to seek redress for that through the Circuit Court of Jackson County, identifying the restrictive covenants and the uses that would be or would not be allowed.
And I'm glad that you asked that, sir. The council may remember in the original agreement, as we had proposed to them, your city manager had kind of run home to mama, and I wanted any of those court issues to be settled in Cass County. Unfortunately, this particular property is in Jackson County, so I lost to everyone on that particular argument when I was making it. Would now like to touch on, it's been kind of a topic.
Hold on, Jim. Mr. Mills?
Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Fairborn, with that 12 acres, since that makes us adjoining to that property, does that mean that if they would do any zoning changes on that property, we would immediately be notified of that?
At the current time, it's not within our jurisdiction. We are simply property owners there. It would be Kansas City's jurisdiction still.
If there are applications that would be filed for that particular property, obviously there'd be a public posting and whatever the notice requirements are in the city of Kansas City for surrounding property owners to receive notice of a proposed change or application, just like we would see here for rezoning applications.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Mr. Fairborn?
Thank you, sir. Would like to talk a little bit about the source of funding that is going to be used should the council approve this agreement. So there are going to be three primary sources of funding as outlined in the agenda item memo sheet for this particular bill. It would be the general fund available fund balance and available fund balance in the appropriate capital funds, to be specific, the capital improvement fund and the excise tax fund of the city. To make a slight departure here and do a little bit of fund accounting, as the council is aware, each year, just like a homeowner, we have daily expenditures and we have daily income, which we define as revenue. Each year, we hope that our expenditures are either a little bit lower than our revenues, or we have an extraordinary revenue that we weren't planning on coming in. Sometimes the expenditures being lower can take, a real good example that we have experienced in the past, can take the form of unfunded positions that were budgeted for. So at the end of the year, we had the budget for those within a balanced single year revenue or budget, but we ended up with an excess of revenue above that. So we put that into the bank. And it's a savings account for the city. if you were to equate it to a homeowner. In our case, it's fund balance. Within that fund balance, the council each year, by ordinance, restricts 20% of that gross fund balance in case there are extraordinary expenses and we lose a source of revenue that we were expecting to come in. That's 20% of the available fund balance. Anything over and above that is available fund balance for the council to spend. You have heard this from me every year when I present the budget to you in August. Available fund balance is available at the council's discretion for expenditures, but it is strongly recommended that it only be used for one-time expenditures because just like a savings account, it is out there, but it is not a recurring source that we can count on. It is there from previous years and out there. Frugal spending on the part of the city council and city staff over the past couple of years has led to there being a significant available fund balance there. For the past 2 years, the council has chosen not to spend that available fund balance in the general fund, deliberately citing the possibility of costs that would be associated with the landfill and the landfill fight that we are currently in. We're now at that point where you may need to use those funds, and staff is recommending that you use those funds if you approve this agreement. To let you know, following the audit just completed for the city, restricted fund balances for the current year are $2,345,109. That's the 20% we can't touch. Over and above that, available fund balances to be used for one-time expenditures, $4,508,687. Staff would be proposing to use just over half of that, leaving a remaining $2 million within the available fund balance for the city going into next year based on these projections. Again, the other funding would come from the excise tax for roads, for obviously using it for $440,000 for the purchase of the property for a future road. The remaining would come out of available fund balance, not dedicated to existing projects or projects within the 5-year CIP out of the capital improvement tax fund. Any question on the funding sources? Thank you. Would like to now touch just very, very briefly on the process that has led us to here tonight. The council has many, many times heard staff recommendations that are based on staff's interaction and the council's interaction with developers. Normally, that is staff or the council sitting on one side of the table and the developer sitting on the other side of the table. Little bit of a different process with this particular proposed amendment to statute. I liken it to a three-legged stool because it's not only the developer sitting there, it is the city sitting there, and it's the legislator sitting there. All three legs of that stool, all three have goals that they would like to see met. They have priorities that they would like to see met. So we're not just negotiating with the developer, we're also hearing from legislators on what they would like to see in order to advance the statute. And these are legislators who very much in a situation like this where it has been a very, very long fight between two entities that are both making appeals to them, and the mayor can attest to this. We've heard this many times in many offices down in Jefferson City. The legislators, looking at it from their standpoint, do not like winners and losers when they do something. There are, but they don't like to do it. They are loath to do it, in fact. So, numerous times when we were down in the legislators' offices, dating back all the way to last year, we heard from the legislators, we see where you're coming from, but we're going to be taking away something from somebody who is into the process, who is following the law, may not believe that they're following the law, but remember, we have to look at it through the legislator's eyes when we are down there in these negotiations. So the legislators fall back on, how do they get made whole? Hear that all the time. How are we going to make them whole for what they have done in this process if we are going to bring forth this statute? It is the point we're at. So much so that during the 9-hour filibuster down in Jefferson City on April 3rd of Senator Searpoy's Bill 739, Senator Roberts got up and proposed making the developer whole. And the formula that they keep falling back on in Jefferson City is 2 times their total costs that they have incurred. They fall back on that. And sure enough, Senator Roberts proposed that as an amendment to this particular piece of legislation. Filibuster went on. They came to, there was, we know, negotiations going on between certain legislators and the Monheisers. Those broke down. We were asked to, if we would be interested in going into negotiations with them to see where starting points might be. I can tell you, their initial proposal to us was about here, and it's not there in what we're proposing tonight. It's about here compared to what they were asking for. So the agreement tonight attempts to satisfy each of the 3 legs of the stool. So we can move the needle in our favor, so we don't simply have a repeat of exactly what happened. The council will remember, a couple of months ago, I said, it appears that unless we can move this needle, we're going to see the exact same things play out in Jeff City that we did last year. We saw that in the House with an overwhelming vote in favor of this. We saw it already in the Senate when Senator Searpoy presented Bill 739, and it was filibustered for 9 hours. So how do we move the needle? This moves the needle. This agreement will move the needle. So 3 legs of the stool. Leg number 1, the developer will be compensated an amount that moves them away from placing a landfill, demolition landfill, or a transfer station in this area. I will remind the council, your constant goal in this has been that, and in fact expanded on a little bit, because the constant goal has been, let's get rid of a solid waste landfill or demolition landfill in this area. We now add to that the transfer station. From the city's leg of the stool, the city will acquire long-desired property to begin the process of establishing a quality northern gateway from the 150 corridor. The city, through restrictive covenants that stay with the land and not the ownership, limits the type of land use and building type that can go onto the retained property by the developer. Leg number 3, the legislators are relieved of a win-lose situation that they have indicated will now allow them to move forward in attempts to pass the city's desired legislation in 260-205 subsection 9, satisfying all 3 legs of the stool in this case and moving us forward. There are currently 2 vehicles at the state that could be used to move this legislation through. Senator Searpoy's Bill 739, which was filibustered but remains on the calendar, is on the informal calendar for perfection. Representative Hafner's Bill 1751 is in the Senate House bills on 3rd reading. Either one of those, because we have presented the senator who would be moving either of those bills at this point in time, we have presented him with the amended language, and it has been taken through legal because now it is more than the mile. And so either of those bills being presented would then need to go back over to the House for a final reading on the House side if it was the House bill, because We've amended the language, so it would go over there for third reading. Senator Sirpoi's bill obviously has not been heard in the House, so amended or not amended, it would need to move forward in the House. That concludes the staff report, and I would be happy to answer any questions from the council.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody have any questions or comments at this time? If not, I will say that, I did want to say that earlier today, I provided a press release, and in the, as the question arises with regard to the cost associated with this, I will say this. I have seen firsthand the anguish that our residents have gone through for more than a year and a half of fighting this battle. And I don't believe there's any price on the long-term health, safety, and well-being of our community. And I fully support this bill as mayor. So with that, if there are no further questions, anybody have anything? I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman.
nearly a year ago, myself and Councilman Barber, as the representatives of Ward 3, led this council with the motion and the second to deny the opportunity within the half mile under 26002.
Yes.
At this time, I believe we should do the same for this bill. Therefore, I move that we approve at this time to approve Bill 3894, the settlement agreement with South KC Acquisitions et al.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Sir, I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. The motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3894. Any further discussion? Hearing none, could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdel-Gawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Circo?
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Mills?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. As I have deemed this to be an emergency reading, could I please have the second reading of Bill 3894 in its entirety?
The second reading of Bill 3894 in its entirety, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city manager to enter into an agreement with South KC Acquisitions LLC and Kansas City Recycle and Waste Solutions LLC, terminating the threatened landfill and authorizing the mayor to declare this as an emergency. Whereas the South Acquisitions LLC and Kansas City Recycle and Waste Solutions LLC developers are the owners of certain property north of the current municipal boundaries of Raymore. And whereas the developers have been seeking for more than a year to develop their property and surrounding properties into a solid waste landfill, and whereas the city has actively opposed the development of the landfill by the developers due to the potential health, economic, and other negative effects that operation of the landfill in close proximity to the city would have on the residents and community. And whereas the city and the developers now wish to fully and finally settle any and all disputes, which will include A, termination of efforts by the developers to complete the landfill, B, the imposition of certain restrictive covenants on the properties owned by the developers, C, joint efforts between the city and the developers to amend section 260.205 subsection 9 RSMO, and D, the sale of certain property by the developers to the city. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Raymore, Missouri as follows. Section 1, settlement. The mayor and city manager are authorized to execute the agreement with the developers as attached for settlement of the disputes and to take all reasonable and required steps included therein for implementation of the agreement. Section 2, restrictions. The mayor and city manager are further authorized to execute the restrictive covenants on the developer's properties as proposed within the agreement and to take all reasonable and required steps included therein for recordation of the same. Section 3, acquisition. The mayor and city manager are further authorized to execute the real estate contract as proposed within the agreement and to take all reasonable and required steps included therein for implementation of the contract. Section 4, payments. The mayor and city manager are further authorized to arrange for payment of all amounts contemplated by the agreement totaling $3,200,090 and by the contract totaling $440,000. Section 5, effective date. The effective date of the approval of this ordinance.
Erica, the number that you stated was not correct on the 3 million. Can you reread that number, please?
$3,290,000.
Thank you.
Section 5, effective date. The effective date of approval of this ordinance shall be coincidental with the mayor's signature and attestation by the city clerk. Section 6, severability. If any section, subsection, sentence, clause, phrase, or portion of this ordinance is for any reason held invalid or unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction, such portion shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision, and such holding shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions thereof. Section 7, emergency reading. In order to assure timely completion of this project, the mayor hereby authorizes the passage of this ordinance as an emergency. Duly read the first time this 15th day of April 2024. Be it remembered that the above ordinance was approved and adopted this 15th day of April 2024 by the following vote.
Now, before I ask the council for a motion this evening on the second reading, we want to open it up to public comment or public input, okay? It's not a Q&A session. It merely gives you an opportunity to voice your opinion at this time as to the actions of this council. I'm going to restrict those comments to 3 minutes per person. I'm going to ask you that if somebody else has already said what you're going to say, that you just say ditto, okay? And we move on from that. I don't want to hear a lot of repeating going on through this process. And so now I'm going to open the floor for public comment. When you step forward, please state your name and name and address for the record. And keep, as I said, keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, esteemed members of the City Council, my name is Ryan Johnson. I live at 554 Avondale Lane, Raymore, Missouri. Here tonight to just simply say, rare is the public official and staff that dives so deeply into an issue and responds with such vigor. And I'm simply here to say a heartfelt thank you, Mayor Turnbow, Mr. Fearborn, members of the council and staff, and to all of my neighbors who live here in Raymore and who call this wonderful place home. You quickly, and before anyone else, assessed the threat and took immediate and decisive action. And for the past 600 plus days, day in and day out, late nights, early mornings, you have fought this fight on behalf of the city and the citizens of this community. And I have no agenda here tonight, but to simply to say in a heartfelt way, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for standing up for me, for my family, for my neighbors, and for the community that you also call home. We will forever owe you a sincere debt of gratitude. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Hi, Mayor. This is Sarah Thompson. I just wanted to say also thank you. But when this gateway goes through, I would like for you guys to think about calling it Turnbow Boulevard. Thank you.
Good evening, Pam Hatcher, 1403 North Madison, Raymore, Missouri. Along with a thank you as a commercial business owner here in Raymore, and specifically a real estate broker, I have seen exactly what this proposed landfill has done to our business environment here for the past 630 days. And not only from my family, my neighbors, but from the business community and the planned economic development for our city. Thank you very much. Really, really appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you, Pam.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members. Good to see you all again. It's been a long time since I've been here, and I come here tonight because this is important enough for me, my neighbors, my friends, and my colleagues in this community to actually come up here and say thank you. I, like Ryan also, I can say ditto.
Sorry, name and address.
Kevin Kellogg. I'm sorry.
I know you, Kev.
I know you do. Kevin Kellogg, 1605 Stacy Avenue, Raymore, Missouri. Again, thank you all for all of your hard work, all of the phone calls you've taken, all of the hand wringing, everything. I know it is tough, but you have fought the good fight. There's still a little bit more to go. I recognize that. This is not the end of the line. We're almost there. We've got a few more steps to go. I realize that, But tonight's meeting, being especially an emergency meeting, most appropriate, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Thank you. On behalf of myself to staff, well done. Well done. Even you, Mr. Zur, I'm sure you have had many sleepless nights over this. So again, thank you. And I don't want to name the street Chris Turnbow. I want to name the roundabout Chris Turnbow.
Thank you.
My name's Kelly Myers, and I'm at 14550 Raytown Road. I'm actually in Kansas City, but I would like to personally thank Jim Fearborn for finding the half-mile statute in all his research, because that was golden and key to all of this legislation. So thank you,
It
Jim.
absolutely was. Thank you.
My name is Holly Miller, and I live at 1307 Cross Creek Drive. My only concern is what's to prevent this from happening again. We've got the 1 mile radius. If nothing moves from that, will somebody come and encroach from a different portion of Raymore? That's a concern of mine. This has just been an awful ordeal, but thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. My name is Todd Burke. I live in Creekmore at 1214 Buckingham Court, and like my other opponents, I'll be up front. I'm running for state rep for District 56 in Creekmore, and they outran me because I have 2 artificial knees, so they got up here before I did. But I thank you for your service. First of all, I just want to applaud you guys for the out-of-the-box thinking that you guys did to get this done, and how you remained respectful the entire time with all the parties involved. I know that has a lot to do with getting an outcome the way you wanted it, because they were willing to work with you, because we weren't name throwing like so many times happened in Jeff City and Washington. You guys, it was very refreshing the way you guys dealt with this, and I appreciate that. Mr. Fernbaugh, thank you very much. Also, the fact that this is not going to cost any money as far as any lack of services for any of us. If this was going to be like we have to lose a police officer or 2, or the taxes have to be raised, or something else wasn't going to get done, we would be having a whole different conversation tonight about this. So the fact that you guys were very conservative and saving money, it's incredible that we have that in the bank, and I thank you and I applaud you for your conservative nature for that. And lastly, Mr. Turnbull, I just want to address a comment you made on Thursday. As a Christian man running for office, it's very refreshing that you show compassion the other night for Mrs. Monheiser, although we desperately do not want this here. When you said that you felt sorry for her, and I understood that, treating people with respect and being able to empathize with another as a human being, as a guy who's made some mistakes in his life, right, and had to learn from mistakes. It was very refreshing to see that compassion and empathy for our fellow man, and I'm very excited and to be able to eventually be able to work with you guys when I'm elected to District 56 State Representative, and I just thank you for what you've all done here tonight and what's going to happen. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
I'm Kit Starr, 9500 Meadow Lane in Leawood, Kansas. And you might wonder why I'm here tonight, but this landfill had momentum when you sought it out, dug it out, and went after it. By yourselves, other cities that didn't stand with you, they didn't have enough information, but you were bulldogs and went after it. And I am in the trash industry. I have seen a lot of things and been privy to a lot of conversations as this has gone on. And the work of this council, the work of the people of Raymore, and the effort that they gave at Jeff City to support this council, to support the other efforts to stop this, I think you all need to be commended. And there is nothing that puts as many nails in the coffin of this landfill that I've seen as this proposal here tonight. And so I think you've done an excellent job.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else care to comment at this time before we move forward?
If not, we'll close the public hearing section of the meeting this evening, and I will entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman.
I move that at this time, we approve Bill 3894, the settlement agreement with South KC Acquisitions et al.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. The motion has been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3894, the settlement agreement with South KC Acquisitions et al. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdel-Gawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Circo?
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Mills?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. The motion, the ordinance is adopted. I thank you all for being here this evening. You guys are too kind. Thank you. Actually, we now come to the public comments portion of our agenda. If you have anything additional you'd like to add or to offer by way of comment, please step forward to the microphone. State your name and address for the record and try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. If there are none, the next portion of our agenda is the Mayor Council Communications. I'm going to start with my Ward 3 members this evening, as they were the ones that made the motion and the seconds. Mr. Holman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good news. This is moving the needle, as Mr. Fearborn likes to say, and we're getting closer and closer. I think we've reached a point where the sides of the stool can come together and agree on this, and we can get what we've wanted all along and eliminate the threat of the landfill. To the young lady who made the comment about potential future threats to our borders, I agree with her. I have said all along, I have likened this situation to the analogy of an individual facing a cancer diagnosis. We do everything we can to eliminate it, but we have to monitor it going forward as diligently as we ever have or anyone would ever do. That's all I have this evening, sir. Thank you.
Sir. Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to thank the people out here tonight, citizens of Raymore and our friends. We found out we had a lot of friends through this thing, and we needed you. Thank you very much. Mr. Fairborn, you and your staff, Mr. Zur, you guys were geniuses on this whole thing, pulling it together. This has been death by 1,000 cuts for our community. We have been sitting here suffering for way too long. We didn't deserve it. We didn't ask for it. But finally, tonight, there's light at the end of the tunnel. We can stop those cuts. And I appreciate everybody here. I appreciate this council. Appreciate, again, staff having the ability to put an agreement together and then have the wherewithal for us to kind of pigeonhole some money, because we knew something was going to happen at some point. So finally, the death by 1,000 cuts, let's stop that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to kind of echo those same sentiments. Thanking the staff from Mr. Fearborn and his team. Excellent legal representation. The communication side of it has been, I think, next to world class as far as keeping our people informed within the city. And that is a key to any battle, is letting everyone know what's going on and what we need to do. Secondly, everyone in the room and listening online, I want to thank you for participating tonight, showing the support of what Raymore is about, supporting each other and supporting our community to continue to grow. That's why I got involved in city politics, was to be involved and to make a difference. So all of you being here tonight really shows us how involved and how much you care about the community. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Circo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I can't take any credit. I've been gone the last 2 years, but I served with this council for 4 years, and I always knew this council, our city manager and all of our people were excellent in what they did for the city. Like me, they all love the city. They've always pushed the city forward, no matter what it was, financial, physically, what we can do to grow into the future. They're fantastic. And now I'm back for another 2 years and pretty happy and proud to be back with this group. But in those 2 years as a citizen, I was freaking out. I was like most. We didn't want that. That would destroy our city of who we are to grow in the future. It would have been a total collapse. No building. It would have been a miserable, miserable time for Raymore. And we all knew that. So I was just as scared as all of you. And I just watch you guys, this council, the city, just work through this. And again, through Mr. Fearborn, his leadership as city manager has never failed this city when I was on. And now that I'm back, I'm so proud of this council, the mayor, the city, the battle what they had, keep us always abreast of what's going on and making these fantastic workout deals and what they had to go all the hours at city and Jeff City. They have battled. They have battled for the city of Raymore to be a city of Raymore into the future still. And that's what we needed. So I'm very happy to be back with this group. They're fantastic. I said that when I left. I'll say it when I come back. Fantastic group. I'm so honored and excited to be with them. And thank you for the city of Raymore. You guys came out fighting. You didn't want to lose this great city. It's the greatest city around. It's going to be the greatest city. I've always said that, and I believe it. And I'm going to fight like these in my next 2 years to make sure we're still moving forward as the greatest city in Missouri. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Abdelgawad.
Thank you, sir. Just real quick, we have so much to be grateful for tonight. Finally, just so close to, I'm feeling relief that we're a step closer to being finished with this landfill threat. Great, as everyone said, great community. Without you guys and all of your support, we probably wouldn't be this close. We heard from legislators time and time again that it was the personal messages from our community that really made a difference. Just above and beyond what the city was working on, what the council and mayor were working on, you guys helped to make this so impactful so that we could get this far. And I can't let tonight pass without recognizing former Councilmember Townsend, who's in the back of the room. He was one of the leaders in this fight and worked really hard on it. Also spent many hours in Jefferson City. He's here tonight just to see it one step closer to the end. So thank you, Mr. Townsend. Thanks to city staff and the mayor for all you've done. And thanks to all the people in Raymore who've supported us and helped us fight along the way.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I came here to Raymore 25 years ago to teach earth science and meteorology and just general science to the ninth graders here. And one of the things that I personally feel is that, okay, great, we're going to teach science. Some people are going to go into that for their career, but everyone here lives in our environment. And I'm going to go out and buy some tags for my motorcraft, my vehicles for Longview Lake now, because the Longview Lake is here to stay. I think it would have died. I think the whole estuary would have died. So I think this is amazing.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As being the newest council member, it's been an honor to be able to vote on this and to be able to see it to closure. But again, I want to express a lot of gratitude to this council, to staff, and I appreciate they spent countless hours the last 2 weeks getting me up to speed on a lot of details, and I'm very impressed. And I definitely want to give honor to Councilman Townsend, as again, him and the mayor especially made a lot of this happen, and so I want to give him honor for that. I'm excited about this, one, taking care of the landfill, but some of you probably haven't been in Raymore maybe as long as I have, but 35 years ago when I was on the council, went out, we had worked with to take over and open the bridge on 155th there because Kansas City wouldn't do it. And when I was out there walking that property and peeling ticks off of myself and everything like that, I envisioned back then, I'd said to our city administrator and council, that should be the entrance to Raymore. It could be like a mini corporate woods. You could have beautiful homes, offices. It would be a great a great asset to our city. It was this beautiful area over there, and you can see, especially with Creekmore, it is such a beautiful area. And I think staff, that was really a genius to get us that ability to have that corridor. And like I say, that's kind of a dream come true for me. And I know it'll take years for it to happen, but we now have the ability for it to happen. So thank you, council, and thank you, staff, Mr. Fearborn, Mr. Zahn, and the rest of the staff. This is an exciting night. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Engert, you still with us?
I'm still with you, even though I'm 465 miles away. I would just like to say thank you to the city staff, Mr. Fairborn, Mr. Murdoch, our attorney, Jonathan Zier, to you, Mr. Mayor, as well as all the other employees for their dedication, their hard work. I never came across anyone that I'm not doing this. I don't want to do this. I think this is a dumb idea. Everyone was all pulling on the rope, and it's amazing to see today the results of the hard work and effort that everyone put in to this particular item. And I just wanted to tell them thank you very, very much for all their hard work.
Thank you, sir. So I'm the final commenter this evening. So our staff really, has been given kudos tonight, but they really are phenomenal. Immediately upon us finding about this threat, Mr. Fearborn and I got our heads together, and we decided to put together a team of people, Mr. Murdoch, Mr. Zur, Ms. Harmer, and we began to strategize how to move forward on defeating a potential economic development FUBAR, for lack of a better term, that was going to occur. I've been very proud of them and the way that they've handled this emergency to our city. It absolutely did have an immediate effect when the truth about the potential plans by the developer to put in a landfill at that location, it began to have an effect on our own economic development growth within the city here. It had an effect on developers who were planning to build. Builders themselves, lenders to those builders, became reticent to offer any kind of loans to builders to continue the effort to expand not only Creekmore, but the surrounding communities. We had one developer put a halt to everything before even one hole was dug in a planned development. That he is now excited, and we're excited about them moving forward with that project. I want to thank this council. We met in executive session, I don't know how many times, after a meeting, a regular open meeting, to meet, to discuss litigation matters, things very important to the planning efforts as we moved forward. They were rock stars themselves for their ability to understand the importance that the team was working on to ensure that we could put a dagger in this thing. I want to thank many of our legislators who we work tirelessly with on a regular basis, sometimes in the middle of the night, oftentimes during the week when Mr. Fearborn, Mr. Murdoch, Ms. Harmer, and I made those trips down to Jefferson City to ensure that they understood the threat to our community. And then I want to thank our residents. Without the grassroots effort that was conducted, my wife, calm down. She gets me worked up. Our residents were phenomenal. We had not only our residents, but the residents of South Kansas City, Grandview, Lee Summit. They were, they were rock stars. The message that you took to Jefferson City
we heard time and time again how effectual that was in getting them to open their eyes to a real threat. They get emails from time to time, but yours were heart-tugging. They meant a lot. They meant a lot to me. They meant a lot to this staff. They meant a lot to this council. We knew we had great support going in down there. We know we have great support now moving forward with our bill to take to Jefferson City tomorrow. Mr. Feuerborn and I are headed there tomorrow. We're going to meet with the developer. We're going to get those signatures. We're going to march into the leadership of the Senate's offices tomorrow, and hopefully they will react accordingly and swiftly and take this strong message to heart and get this thing done. And we're very excited about the excitement that has been generated in Jefferson City to move this forward. We'll not only have our team of lobbyists working on our behalf, they will now be in lockstep with the developers' lobbyists. As you know, we're en masse down there as well, and letting the senators who got in the way, asking them to step aside. We're hoping that they will absolutely do that. We might not get their vote, but we've counted the votes. We have enough. We have enough in the Senate. We have enough in the House. We're very excited about that. And we did meet with the governor a few weeks back. Mr. Townsend was in that meeting with Mr. Feuerborn, and I had COVID at the time. I couldn't be there, unfortunately. And the message was loud and strong: bring me a clean bill. I will look at this with great favor. And so he couldn't make the commitment 100%, but I felt like that the language that was used was very complimentary to our effort, and we were going to get the job done. So with that, thank you to all that came out tonight. Thanks to those that spoke here tonight. We appreciate you. Keep up the good work. It's not over with yet. It's still fragile. It does require the legislatures, both the Senate and the House, to act in order for us to get this done. If you see as it's moving along an opportunity to get your message across to them again, please don't hesitate to do so with an email, a letter, a phone call. That continued effort means a lot. Like I said, they've never seen an outcry of support from a community like they've seen from our community. And it means a lot. It really does. Sorry to get choked up. I'm getting older. As I got older, I got that way. But it is, I don't know, it just seems so gratifying to represent such good people. So, thank you. And we have no reason tonight to go into executive session. So I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Abdelgawad.
I move that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I will second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded for adjournment. All those in favor? Oh, we have to do the roll call with Mr. Ingert. Okay, we'll do the roll call.
Councilmember Abdelgawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Circo?
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert?
Yes.